Hey everyone, today we're taking a look at MarketSurge by Investors Business Daily. This was previously known as MarketSmith, and it's a really cool platform for swing traders and active investors. It offers annotated charts that give you an idea of how a stock is doing from a technical perspective, and it combines that with a ton of fundamental information on the same window. So you can look at how a stock is performing relative to the broader market, as well as peers in the same sector, and get an idea of things like earnings growth year to year. So it's a really powerful tool for investors who are looking for not just great stocks, but also great stocks at great entries. So with that, let's dive into this platform and I'll show you what it's all about and help you decide if it's right for you. So what we're looking at here is the MarketSurge dashboard, and this is primarily just a landing page. The vast majority of MarketSurge is going to take place in the charting platform, which I'll bring up now. So here we're looking at an annotated chart of Palantir Technologies, and there's just a few things I want to point out about this chart. There's a lot going on here. I'm going to try to walk you through what MarketSurge is trying to tell you and why that information is important. So the first thing we have, of course, is a candlestick chart along with 50 and 200-day moving averages. What I do want to point out about this chart is that it is a static chart. You can't actually edit this. It's not, for example, like TradingView, where you can really customize how the chart looks or change the layout of the bars or add your own technical indicators. So really important to note that while MarketSurge centers around charts, it is not a charting platform. That's going to be really important if you're a swing trader and active investor trying to get a little bit more information about these entry points. The next thing I want to point out is this RS rating, or relative strength rating. This is a measure of how a stock has performed in terms of its price over the past 1 year compared to the S&P 500. So a 99 is the top rating you can get in this system, and it means that Palantir has performed better than 99% of all stocks in the S&P 500. And then lastly, you can see that MarketSurge actually uses automated annotation technology to identify specific chart patterns. In this case, there's a cup with handle pattern. So you can see the cup forming here that was identified, the handle forming here, and it actually even points to the breakout here, at which point it calls a pivot. So a pivot is essentially a resistance line, or in this case, kind of a base for the breakout. And these pivots are going to be important because they're determining, where price targets are set from in MarketSurge's system. So you can see that the price has actually dropped down since Palantir set this pivot point from the cup with handle pattern. And you can see that MarketSurge is calling it minus 4% from the pivot point over the past 7 days of trading. You can also see that there's a stop loss level down here, and it's off the chart in this image, but there's also a price target that MarketSurge gives you. So in these charts, you're getting a ton of information about how the stock is performing relative to the rest of the market, annotated technical pattern, and even price target and stop loss based on this breakout pattern. Now, most of the rest of the information on this chart is actually related to fundamentals, not technical analysis. So here we can see earnings per share over a number of years for Palantir. We can also see this earnings per share rating. This is compared to, again, other stocks in the S&P 500, and it's based on EPS growth. We can look at the relative strength rating of the group that Palantir is in. This is computer software enterprise. We can see that industry is actually 45th out of 197 industries that MarketSurge ranks for the US market. We can look at sales, margin, and revenue rating. A is quite good. Accumulation distribution rating, composite rating, timeliness rating, all of these give you information basically about how well a stock is doing from a fundamental perspective and comparing that against both peers and the rest of the market. Along the bottom of the chart, we can see EPS information for the past 4 quarters. So we're looking at earnings versus expectations, and you can see in blue gives you the amount of EPS growth relative to the same quarter a year ago. So just a really nice look at whether earnings is growing for a company and at what rate. One thing I really like here too is that, especially for growth companies, you can get the price to earnings range. So you can see for Palantir, this is a very growth-oriented company. This is quite a high PE range, but it gives you an idea of how that's changing quarter over quarter. You can also see the current PE rating here, as well as what that is multiplied by the S&P 500 average. Now, on the right of the chart, we can get even more information. So we'll pull up this panel, and we can see here first what percent of Palantir shares are owned by funds and banks as well as management. We can look at the number of funds that own this stock over time. So ideally, for most stocks, we want to see that number increasing. More fund ownership is generally good for stocks. We can also look at the performance of the sector. So again, out of the 197 industries that MarketSurge ranks, the computer software enterprise industry is 45th. We can look at the number of stocks in this industry, how many are hitting new highs and new lows, as well as look at rankings for things like EPS, relative strength, and more in this industry group. If you're interested, you can also quickly pull up news around Palantir. And what I really like is this checklist. So MarketSurge comes with a few different checklists. The one I'm showing here is a Warren Buffett checklist, and this is essentially like a reverse screen. So instead of screening for a bunch of stocks, we're looking at this sort of Warren Buffett related screen that MarketSurge makes and seeing how many of the criteria for this screen Palantir meets. So you can see that it failed based on earnings per share 5 and 6 years ago. That's likely because this is a relatively newer company. It's worth pointing out MarketSurge is based on William O'Neill's Can Slim strategy. So this is kind of an important checklist to watch for this service. That Can Slim strategy combines price momentum, earnings growth, as well as technical breakouts to find stocks that perform really well. I pulled Palantir from MarketSurge's top stocks list, which I'll get into in just a minute. So it's not totally surprising to see that the stock fully passes this checklist. If you want to know more about the technical patterns that MarketSurge has identified, you can dive into this pattern recognition pattern. It shows that cup with handle pattern, as well as a older consolidation pattern. The market tab gives you mostly information about the market rather than about Palantir stock specifically. And the technical panel gives you some basic information about moving averages and the stock's performance over the last several days, months, quarters, and year. So the key point to all of this, it's a lot to take in, but once you get used to MarketSurge's system, you have a ton of information, both technical and fundamental, all in one view. That can be really powerful when you're looking to generate stock ideas and you want to quickly run through stocks to find setups that have high potential for stocks that have really strong fundamentals. I kind of like the way that MarketSurge puts all this data together. It's more than what you get, for example, with Seeking Alpha, which is mainly focused on fundamentals. It gives you fundamentals, whereas something like TradingView, which is a charting software, really just focuses on technical analysis. So I love the way that the software combines these two things together and puts them all in one screen so you can just really kind of focus in on a stock and get everything you need to know about it within a couple minutes. So that's really what you need to know about MarketSurge's annotated charts. And now I want to show you a little bit about how the platform helps you find stocks to actually dive into and look at. I pulled Palantir from this top-rated stocks list, which is kind of updated every day based on stocks with high, strong relative strength ratings as well as EPS ratings. So you can see there's a list of more than 100 stocks here that you can actually dive into and get these annotated charts for. What I think is really cool is, especially for something like the top stocks list, is you can actually just play through these charts. So here it'll sit on each of these charts for just a few seconds, and you can kind of quickly look at them and wait to see, one that pops out to you. Maybe you're looking for a breakout pattern, or you're looking for a stock that has a really high group relative strength rating and a low PE. You can kind of just play through these charts and look at these relatively quickly. Of course, there are other ways to find and screen for specific stocks, but I really like this as just a nice way to kind of run through these top stocks that MarketSurge has picked out and generate ideas from that. There are also other lists that MarketSurge comes with. So you're going to find these under this stocks folder here. And you can see that there are, lists for stocks with upcoming earnings, recently reported earnings. You can look at the top 150 stocks by EPS rating. You can look at timeliness stocks. You can look at top-rated IPOs. So there's a lot of different options here. And MarketSurge also has this Growth 250 list, which is kind of a curated list of 250 growth stocks that MarketSurge thinks are worth watching. So with these lists, you're never going to be, at a loss for finding ideas. Maybe the hard part of MarketSurge is figuring out which of those ideas to focus on. For that, I think, again, all of that information in the technical charts and in that related information panel that gives you details about fundamentals can be really helpful for then taking all of these ideas and narrowing in on the ones that fit your strategy and actually offer good entry opportunities. It's also worth pointing out that you can create your own lists here, and obviously create watch lists of stocks to keep an eye on. You can also set alerts. These are only price-based alerts though, so they're pretty limited in terms of kind of the overall capabilities of MarketSurge. I'd like to see a little bit more out of the alerts. One other key thing I want to point out that I should get back to is I've mostly shown you daily charts. MarketSurge also offers weekly and monthly charts for all of these stocks, as well as charts down to the 1 minute time frame. So depending on your time frame, or you can use multi-time frame analysis to look at these stocks and these annotated charts and technical patterns over multiple different timescales. And that can be a really powerful way, again, to kind of analyze these patterns, find out how strong a breakout is, how well supported it is, as well as how well a stock has performed over various timeframes. The other key way that MarketSurge gives you to find stock ideas is through the screener. So you can easily create your own screen, and there's a lot of different criteria here. You can basically set criteria based on the EPS rating, relative strength rating, sales margin and revenue rating, and more. You can dive into all sorts of metrics around earnings. You can look at, shares outstanding, what percentage of a stock shares are held by funds. You can dive into financial ratios and more. One thing I really like about this is that as you add filters, MarketSmith is actually going to show you, out of a universe of about 10,800 stocks, how many stocks are remaining after each of your filters. So this is a really kind of nice real-time way to get a sense of whether your stock is too narrow or too broad, to get a sense of whether your screen is too narrow or too broad. This is, something you can do by actually running a screen and then seeing that there's not very many stocks that show up in it, or that there's too many stocks that show up in it. But I just kind of like that MarketSurge gives you this information before you even run the screen. The other thing that's really nice about MarketSurge's screener is that it actually comes with a bunch of pre-made screens. So just like there were those checklists earlier, there's actually screens based on those checklists. So you can run, for example, a Warren Buffett or a William O'Neill screen and then pull up the results for those. And you can see right here, these are only stocks. There's about 60 of them that meet those William O'Neill 9 criteria for investing in. So, we can dive back into our daily chart and again, just play through these results on the chart screen to kind of quickly look through these screen results in chart form and get an idea of which ones we might want to add to a watch list to then investigate further. So as I've said, I think this is a really cool platform in the way that it brings together sort of different types of information to help you make decisions. I find that it can be a little overwhelming at first. There's definitely a learning curve to figuring out, what all of the different acronyms and lines on these charts mean. I'll say that MarketSurge doesn't actually do a great job of explaining many of them. And there are learning resources with this platform, but they're more designed for investors who have already used the platform and are looking for ways to take it to the next level than for people who are just starting out with MarketSurge. The other drawback to me for this platform is that it doesn't actually offer any sort of customizable technical charting tools. The charts that you see here that are annotated are what you get. You can't pull up sort of standard candlestick charts and customize them with other moving averages or even relative strength indicator, MACD. So they're limited in that sense, in that what you see in these annotated charts is what you get. And if you want to do more technical analysis, you're going to have to also use a separate platform like TradingView. For that, I actually really like TradingView or TrendSpider. Both are really great. TrendSpider kind of fits in with MarketSurge in the sense that it also uses automated technical analysis and kind of pattern recognition software to help you identify potential entries and breakouts automatically. So MarketSurge paired with TradingView can be great, but I really like pairing MarketSurge with TrendSpider for that reason. Okay, so how much does MarketSurge cost? Well, as you might expect, this is not a cheap service. You can try it out for 6 weeks for $49.95. But after that, it's going to cost $149.95 per month or $14.99 per year. So this is a pretty pricey service, especially compared to standalone charting tools, again, like TradingView or TrendSpider, which does come with some analysis of its own. But that said, there's not a lot else on the market that really kind of fits the same niche as MarketSurge. A lot of platforms focus either on technical analysis or fundamental analysis. Some fundamental analysis platforms will offer charting tools and some technical analysis basics, but they don't dive in the same way as MarketSurge and actually identify breakout areas and entry points for you, and even give you actionable trading stop losses and price targets. So for that, MarketSurge is really powerful and really unique. I think this is a really pretty worthwhile service for swing traders and active investors who feel like they have a bottleneck in generating new stock ideas to research. If you have too many ideas, MarketSurge can kind of be overwhelming in that sense, in that it's going to give you a lot of stocks to look into, and you need to really have a strategy for playing through those charts and knowing what you're looking for so you can hone in on just the stocks on the charts that make the most sense for your strategy. It's also worth pointing out that Investors Business Daily has a alternative service called IBD Leaderboard that uses the same annotated charts as MarketSurge, but actually does more of a curated list of stocks for you to monitor and has a portfolio that you can follow along with. I have a full video review on IBD Leaderboard that I'll include with this video. I will say that even though IBD Leaderboard is quite a bit cheaper, I have a harder time recommending it than MarketSurge. I think it leaves out a lot of the features that make MarketSurge really unique and really powerful. So with all that, if you're looking to generate new ideas for swing trading and active investing, I would definitely recommend taking advantage of this $49.95 trial for 6 weeks, giving MarketSurge a try, and seeing if it's right for you.